Oh my gosh. And the question is, are we a nation? And what kind of nation are we? And I have to say, the Doge bags that are on the loose in our US systems, illegally dismantling our systems, deciding how they're going to terrorize people, scare people, firing people. Just in my neighborhood alone, I have a family whose children that my children grew up with, that work for the FBI, helped us keep safe from foreign actors, was disbanded by that Pam Bondi, So we have an issue that we are under attack. And yes, call it a coup. As we said, you got to name it to be able to fight it. And we saw this morning our congresspeople at the doors of the Department of Education and the police standing there blocking inside their entry. So yes, what kind of nation are we? And I have to say, in this room, when you look at the chat, you can see we're a nation of people who do care, who are standing up. And really, what we have, the silver linings, though, that we should all be super proud of, or at least aware of, and it really kind of shows us a path how we fight, is that the lawsuits that coming from public citizen that we've had on this show, the different ACLU lawsuits, are freezing some of these bad actions to slow things down, to one, get people aware of what's happening, and also to hopefully stop some of these, especially grant freezes that are closing health centers and really impacting so many things around the country. And I have to say, if you were listening to David Pepper this morning, who will be on the show next week, by the way, he said, don't wait, get on the offensive. Understand they are coming at you. So what did the labor do? Labor got in front of it, and they already filed a pre-lawsuit, knowing that, the information that they have is definitely information they want to protect. So going on the offenses is one way we can really, really protect ourselves. So, and all of you that stood up, and it gives our elected the backbone help that they need to. I kind of never thought of it that way, but once people started to raise their voice, you saw our elected come out more. It is really up to us. So I'm so glad you're in the room. I was excited to see people from California and San Jose and everywhere. And I know that there are some comments in the chat about the post that I decided to make about the rally in Virginia at the Bell Tower. And, I had said I was, if you read it and actually read what I said, I was really worried about it because of the lack of information and wanting to send some of my young people down there without, it'd be like sending somebody on a date without knowing exactly who was on the other side of that app. And I did everything I could to track down who was there. I think moving forward, so I will take that hit. And you know what? I tried my best. I was really concerned because we also knew there was right-wing infiltration going on in some places across the states. In Virginia, let's face it, for people that are in Virginia, Richmond, we have some great groups and some people that understand the lay of the land and went. I'm so glad they did. But I wanted to clear that up. And I hope to get, I think going forward, one thing we need to do, because it's going to get sort of hairy and worse, is make sure that we have points of contacts, that we make sure that we know from bathrooms to safety, that people understand where they're being asked to go. It's going to be important because it's going to get a little rough. So I think as organizers, it's really important that we do that. But again, sometimes you don't get it right, as Fanel likes to say. All right, so thank you for being here. I'm so excited. We have such a great show today. So if you're in the room, new to Network Nova, I'm glad you're here. Subscribe to our Friday Power Lunch. We've been doing this for 5 years, 9 years overall. And we have a friendly audience. We use the chat, say some real shit to each other. I'm so glad to see people from all over the country here. But if you get nasty, you get mean, you get just out of pocket, we will just kick you out. It's no problem. And I want to say yes and thank you, and a big special appreciation for our newest patrons. We have Christy Wolf, who came in a couple weeks ago. Georgia Bloom, thank you so much. And Ann Wilson, our newest supporter. It really, really helps us do this show every week. Your support is so appreciated. So, hey, everybody, it's Friday, February 7th. And yes, you're on the Friday Power Lunch. And we are a badass group of women bringing you the news and political gab every week, and we fuel things to get done from coast to coast. And we also like to make politics fun. Today, super important, a subject that we've been concerned about really for this past year, supporting immigrant families and communities. Today, it's show number 198. How cool is that? I want to welcome Congressman Jennifer McClellan to the show today, Roma Javid, Legal Director, Immigrant Justice Program, and Patricia Bracknell, President of the Chamber of Hispanic Progress. So great to have you in the room. And I want to hand it over, if all is going on schedule, to Black History Spotlight with the awesome, fearless, I don't know, a woman who likes to have fried flounder, right? Doesn't mess around. We went out to eat the other day. We had ourselves some good fish and coleslaw and French fries.
It was yummy.
What?
It was yummy. Thank you, Catherine. I'm happy to
You.
have this moment. So here goes.
Well,
So
I'm gonna get out of your way if you give me a minute.
sure.
I'm gonna go get my flounder right now.
Go get your flounder. So what is a Black job? When Trump uttered those words, it went viral. We all laughed and we wore T-shirts. My Black job is to vote. My Black job is in Congress. My Black job is a lawyer, a doctor, a scientist. And the highlight was from former First Lady Michelle Obama, whose husband's Black job was president of the free world. I took those remarks to be exactly as Trump intended, that he believed our Black jobs were in the fields, doing manual labor and the jobs that no Americans wanted to do, intended as an insult to immigrants who are our friends and family and neighbors, but it was also an insult to the history of where our ancestors began, in the fields, working 18 hours a day, with little sleep, food, shelter, for 240 years, from 1619 to 1865. I would ask everyone to read my favorite abolitionist, Frederick Douglass, for his journey. Narrative of the Life of Frederick Douglass, an American slave, written by himself. It's embarrassing, it's sobering, it's horrible. It's a bewildering read, which I'm sure is probably banned in school. But he was taken from his mother as an infant and raised by his maternal grandmother. His mother, in an effort to see him, would walk for 12 miles at night after she finished her grueling work in the field, and she'd have to get back by sunrise in order to be ready to go to work, because if you weren't there, it meant a whipping. At age 6, he was sent to another plantation where his work began, where his story and journey begins. It is remarkable. It is the story of all the work that he did as an abolitionist. And not only was he one of the most important voices in the movement and afterwards, he was a statesman, he was an author, he was a newspaper publisher, he was a paid orator, and he was welcomed in the company of President Abraham Lincoln. The point of my story is that looking at Trump's cabinet today, we don't need DEI for our benefit. DEI needs us all. Frederick Douglass didn't just fight to end slavery, he also fought for women's rights to vote. Even Frederick Douglass understood the value of diversity. To honor him, I will no longer say DEI, the new N word for the right. I will call it like it is. I will make them say it too. Diversity, which means different, and different doesn't mean less than. Inclusion, which means being included and equal opportunity. Let me have access. And equity, simply put, is just fair treatment. If there are barriers, move them. So from this day forward, let not your Black job, your white job, your gay job, or any job be anything but an American job. Thank you.
Well,
good job.
my friend, that is so amazing. Can we put Carrie in?
Yay.
So I didn't get to, I want to just start the show off. So by the way, so powerful. And Carrie, great to have you here. What a
Thank
busy
you.
week. I'm so excited. First of all, to recognize Black history. And I was being silly about the flounder. Fennell and I had lunch together at her favorite place, Surfrider. And we talked a lot about getting to know, our husbands got to meet finally, which was really exciting. And I think that is so important moving forward as community and friendship and having those moments that you take to yourself, so it was great.
Yeah, we got to hold each other up for
Hold each
sure.
And you,
Yeah.
Carrie, I want to, well, we're waiting for, hopefully we'll have a few minutes here before Jennifer McClellan comes. If not, we'll go with with the roll on with the guests.
Oh yeah, we've got great guests, so we can just
Great.
keep on rolling.
You put it together. I'm so grateful for all that. But let's talk about you real quick. When we talk about the stuff we can do in playbooks, I'm just so impressed with what's going on with COVID Coalition. Why don't you give us a quick
Thank
report?
you. Yeah. So the little sisters of Network Nova down in Hampton Roads, we're very proud. But we had an amazing turnout at Wednesday's meeting. It's actually the third meeting we've had since the election, but it was our biggest meeting we've had in a really long time. People are getting pretty fired up. We had a lot of new people. It was very energetic. We did a cool icebreaker where we talked about it's time that we're not on defense. So we took attacks from the campaign, wrote them on one side of the card, and then flipped it, not pro-Dem or pro-progressive, but a direct attack on the Trump regime. And we came up with some good ones. So we're calling them truth bombs in honor of Fanal. So we are developing a playbook. We've got a few things up our sleeves in terms of communication. The first step being calling it the Trump regime. That's what we call these oppressive authoritarian governments in other countries. I don't know why we're not using it to describe the Trump regime. So from now on, friends, it's the Trump regime. So that's step number one of the playbook. Step number two, of course, is that we're going to control some communication, and we're going to go back down to the level, where we are, non-technical communication, stuff that we can control.
Right.
There are no editors on the internet. There's also no editors on billboards, yard signs, postcards, stickers. So we're all over it. And what I'm really super happy about, we're going to be honing in on this plan tomorrow. We have 14 leaders from grassroots organizations coming together for a meeting tomorrow where we're going to discuss this playbook, hold each other up, support each other, and come up with a strategy that's going to kick some what. And we are ready. And I'm not, and here's another thing that I'm just going to say. We talked about Wednesday night. We're all excited about Abigail. We're all excited about the elections coming up this fall. But it is not a medicine for right now. We know we need to do that, but people are hurting right now. And so when an organizer comes to them and says, I know you're hurting right now, but we're going to elect someone in November.
Feel better.
It falls flat. It falls flat right now. People want something right now. So we need to be I'm just shouting out, we need to be a little more creative in what we're telling people to do right now as leaders. Because of course we're going to bust our butts for Abigail. That's going to happen. But right now people need to do something that they feel is making a difference right now. So Wednesday was fantastic. Tomorrow's going to be amazing. I can't wait to report back out.
I feel you. We are here with you. What can I do for you? So I am right there with you.
Or like my Substack, just give me a minute.
Yeah.
Give me a minute.
Oh, listen. Yeah. And I love the regime. And I was listening to the pod Save America today, and they came out with the douchebags. So I was like all over that, because I know that Fennell had some dirty words yesterday that we're not going to say on the show. But when Fennell says dirty words, I'm like, dude, we're all down. Like, we are down with the fight. So I think what we should do, the smart thing to do, is to get this party started for everybody. And then if we see the Congresswoman come in, we'll let you finish up and we'll go straight to her. So I'm excited. Why don't you just get us started, Carrie? And
yeah, sure. We're going to bring Roma up.
Yeah, Roma.
She's on here. So everyone, I'm super excited to bring this topic up, but my heart is heavy that we're bringing this topic up. It's the only way I can say it. So we're bringing in our friend, Roma Javed, who's going to talk to us today. She's the legal director for immigrant justice at Legal Aid Justice Center. So Roma, welcome to the Friday Power Lunch.
Thanks so much, Carrie. I'm so excited to be here. The energy in the chat is palpable. I'm really excited to end my week in a room with folks that care and want to make change. Thanks for having me.
That's great. Yeah, you've got a lot of allies in this space. We had the ACLU on a couple weeks ago to talk about some litigation strategies. I know that you have worked with them in the past. I know you are also working on some litigation strategies. We're going to talk to my friend Patricia later today. She is a avid supporter of getting them at all levels. But I would like you to just start off by telling us a little bit about Legal Aid Justice.
Sure, I would be happy to. So, the Legal Aid Justice Center is the only statewide Virginia legal aid. I am the director of the Immigrant Justice Program, as Carrie mentioned. So, I am the director of just one of our 6 advocacy programs. We have a number of programs, including housing, health benefits, public benefits, youth justice, and worker justice. 2 really cool things about LAJC that I want to emphasize, just because we're not a traditional legal aid. The first is that lawyers and community organizers work hand in hand. We get the bigger picture, so we understand that just taking individual cases is not going to cut it as far as making the bigger long-term social change. So we have organizers and attorneys that sort of team up. The organizers are out on the ground and they are community feelers, and so that community pipeline sort of informs our litigation and our advocacy. We try to be directly responsive to community need, which is really exciting. And we are nimble enough to be able to do that because of the second cool thing about LAJC, which is that our development team really prioritizes unrestricted funding. That's very unique for a legal aid because often federal funding comes with restrictions that bar representation of undocumented immigrants and other sorts of immigrants that are often the most vulnerable ones. So cool things about LAJC, we are nimble enough to be able to do that work, and we work in such a way that we are community responsive and can do it. So we've been able to respond.
Great. I mean, that's definitely key. That's what we're proud of with grassroots groups, that we are nimble. We try not to be accountable to a lot of strings, right? So before we get started on your strategy, because I think it's really great, and one of the things that really motivated me to ask you to be here today is that toolkit that's online. But before we get into that, I'd really like you to tell us a little bit about what's going on right now. You were talking about some enforcement activity, and just wanted you to give us a kind of a big update on that.
Sure, I can share some information. So LAJC, my team specifically, the Immigrant Justice Program, is partnered with the Virginia for Immigrant Families Coalition. Those are the folks that are running the Virginia Rapid Response Hotline. So when they are seeing folks that are being picked up by ICE or have a loved one that's been detained, or they see ICE activity, that's the number that they call to report that information and get resources, and then eventually be connected to us on the representation side. So we have information from that hotline. They've received just over 100 calls so far. That doesn't give us any real solid data because some of that is enforcement, some of that is reporting pickups of multiple people, but it gives us a little bit to work with. I know that top of mind for folks, at least what we're hearing from the community directly, is fears of raids in hospitals and schools. I'm grateful that we haven't yet heard or seen that in the Northern Virginia area, but I was speaking a little bit earlier with Catherine just before we started the show, and we did discuss that there has been a little bit of increased enforcement in the Northern Virginia area as far as in apartment complexes. Specifically on Wednesday, there was a raid at Fairmont Gardens where 6 people were picked up by ICE before work early in the morning, 6:15. I believe 5 of those were detained and then actually taken to the Farmville Detention Center. And then one of them was released when he produced a work authorization or some sort of ID.
Wow.
So we are seeing some more enforcement.
Now, your service area isn't everywhere in Virginia, right? You're working in a few areas.
Yes. Well, so our Legal Aid Justice Center aspires to be state aid. Practically, we have offices in Falls Church, Charlottesville, and Richmond. We hope to expand to the Hampton Roads area at some point in the future, but for now, that's where our offices are located. And while we're trying to have that reach, you can kind of imagine the capacity constraints that come with that. So I will just say, for my team's purposes, most of our staff is in Nova right now in Charlottesville.
Got you. So like coming back to strategy though, so thanks for that update. We're all interested to know what's going on in Virginia. But so coming back to strategy, I did see that toolkit, that rapid response toolkit. I learned things looking at that I did not understand previously, and I'm so glad that I had a chance to take a look at that. Can you just let us know as activists what we can do to help resist these roundups and help people who are targeted?
Sure. I think I have 4 action steps that I can list for folks that want to do something right now. So the first one, get educated, and knowledge is power. Share that information and the resources. Learn the rights that you have when ICE is present and what to do, and then share that information out. We have resources on the website, www.justiceforall.org. That's the number 4. That's where you can find our toolkit where we have Know Your Rights videos in Spanish and English. So learning those rights and sharing the resources out. Virginia is Virginia is a place where I wish there was a lot more immigration legal representation. There are a lot of immigrants and there aren't many immigration attorneys, so misinformation spreads pretty rapidly. Sharing the resources is vital. So take a look at our webpage for starters, and you will see resources there, monthly Facebook Lives that we're putting on as a team, and emergency preparedness packets. Share those. I think the second action item I would have for folks is get red cards. If you don't know what those are, Google them. They are little cards that you can hand out, and they are a resource. Our office in Falls Church and Richmond and Charlottesville has stacks of cards, and if folks from the community would like to go and pick some up, you are welcome to do that. We are offering that, but get red cards, share them with people that you love. Those are cards that you can read off of and say your rights to ICE when they are there. They come in all different languages. They're a really great resource. Third step, I would say, is plan now, whatever that means. Start emergency preparedness planning. If you are an immigrant, plan for your family, take a look at our website, look at those preparedness packets, plan for your kids, plan for your property. If you are not an immigrant and you love immigrants, plan where you can. Plan for the people that you love, share the resources, and in places where you have power or a voice, advocate for a plan for there to be a plan of action if ICE shows up. And I'll just end on this note. If you have time, advocate, participate, volunteer, donate, and attend meetings and participate, and make your voice heard.
Yes, I was interested to read about doing the documentation to help your children, if you are detained. So I was very interested in that. So I know that we have a link to the toolkit in the chat and a link to Legal Aid Justice in the chat. But I did want to know, so can you tell me just where those detention centers are again? I was surprised.
Yeah, so Virginia right now has 2 ICE detention facilities. There's the Farmville Detention Center and the Caroline Detention Center. So those are the only 2 that they are right now. We are seeing a higher population in both of them now. Farmville is for profit. It is the larger prison, and they, I believe, have opened up their women's wing now and are filling capacity there. So we're seeing the detention centers fill up.
Wow. All right. Well, we'll be definitely following this. I hope you're going to stay for the after chat. As I understand it, we're going to shift over to Catherine right now.
Great.
So thanks so much.
I just want to say thank you. And, we talk about the color red in the green room, how the color red could do a lot of good. Those red cards are so important. Your work is so important. So yeah, stick with us, because I am interested about the detention centers, if you're seeing kids in there and if people can visit them. So yeah, stick around. So thank you, Carrie, for that segment. It just opens up so many questions, but it was fantastic. Next up, folks, the coup is on. The coup is on. And look who's wearing red today. We had a big discussion about red. Congresswoman Jennifer McClellan in the back room were like, you're making red rock. And today is the Heart Day. Is that right? Is it Women's Health?
That's right.
Yeah, there you go.
Women's Heart Health.
Heart Health Day. So with your heart, how is your heart holding up? I mean,
Look, so here, whenever anybody asks me, how are you doing? I try to answer excellent, because in the grand scheme of things, all of my family members are alive. I'm alive. God woke me up this morning. It could be a lot worse. And then when I remember that I almost died in childbirth, both my daughter and I, that puts everything in perspective. So my number one piece of advice for everybody today is find your excellent and don't let anybody take it away from you. Couple other mantras for the year before I kind of jump into the update, because it's going to be rapid fire.
Yeah.
Try to focus on what you can control and let go of the rest. You cannot control everything. You can't impact everything. And if you try, you're going to kill yourself or drive yourself crazy. That is easier said than done, I know. But if you constantly, every morning, remind yourself, focus on what you can control and let somebody else handle the rest, it'll help. And this is an all hands on deck moment. And those are kind of the mantras that I have told my team, and how we are approaching every day, because this is a coup.
Yeah.
This is a coup, and it is not a coup by Donald Trump. It is a coup by Russ Vought, and Elon Musk. Plain and
Like,
simple. I'm not even sure Donald Trump knows half of the things that he signed.
no, he's worried about something else. I want to say that when I was down last Sunday to listen to the Virginia's List event, and where you spoke, your words were really impactful. I want to thank you to just for being the leader you are before we dig really into it. I think, what we found this week rising up to be right behind you with the activists, I think that has really been helpful to show really the support of you. But in that moment in the room, you told us put our mask on first, like in an airplane, take care of ourselves first and focus on what you can control. I took that back to my team, your top 3 things, because I was like, shit, I need that too, because you just want to focus everywhere and control what you can control. So I just want to say thank you for everything. And let's get into it because this is just so impactful. I have neighbors that have lost their jobs. We have kids that my kids went to school with, the FBI work. They're doing intelligence against Russian oligarchs wiped out by Pam Bondi. Now we have, like you just said, what's going on. So why don't you start where you think it's most helpful and just give us what's going on. What is happening?
First, I want to, so Donald Trump issued over 100 executive decisions on day 1, which was not quite 3 weeks ago. And so everybody understand this flood the zone, fire hose, whatever analogy you want to use, that was an intentional strategy to overwhelm and exhaust us. And we really need to resist the urge to react to everything and be very strategic. And so for each member of Congress, we have a broad House Democratic caucus. I can really only speak a little bit for the House and a little bit for the Senate, but we have a strategy that's a multi-pronged attack. Some of you may have seen Leader Hakeem Jeffries posted his sort of 10-point strategy. Some of it involves us and some of it does not. The House, only the Speaker of the House has standing to sue on behalf of Congress. And so for many of these actions that overstep presidential authority and infringe on congressional authority, we are not in a position to challenge that in the courts. We have to work with allies. So for example, when the funding freeze happened, we very quickly mobilized with the 22 Democratic state attorneys general for them to file a lawsuit, which then led a federal court to strike down that funding freeze. And so just know, even if you don't see always, and you're not going to see all actions that we're taking, that doesn't mean they're not happening. So what are the actions that we're taking? We're trying to use our committee structure to prioritize what members are doing what. And based on what's in our district. I'll speak for me personally. Where we have primarily put our focus is the federal workforce because of the impact on Virginia. The national security issues and related veterans because of the importance to Virginia. I am now on the Energy and Commerce Committee, which deals with sort of healthcare, all things energy related. So the assault on our national healthcare system, which we know is going to go after Medicaid, et cetera, those are areas where I'm focused. And then, there are a lot of other issues that are priorities for me. There are a lot of other actions that are priorities for me, but I and my team don't have the bandwidth to do that. So every member of Congress is sort of picking those 3 or 4 areas where they're going to laser focus in. And sort of that's the only way we can handle this sort of all hands on deck approach. Some of what we're doing is legislatively. So for example, in response to Musk and his minions having unfettered access to data at the Treasury Department, we have filed the Taxpayer Data Protection Act to try to address that. We've, Don Beyer and Susan Bonamici just filed another bill trying to deal with presidential authority on when he can enact tariffs. So where we can file legislation in response, we're doing it. But remember, we're the minority party.
Right.
We need 3 Republicans in the House to join us to do anything. And the Senate needs Republicans to join them to do anything. So while we know my office has gotten hundreds of calls a day, and that's great, keep them coming. But those of you that live in Republican districts, or those of you who have friends that live in Republican districts, they need to feel the pressure, because we need 3 of them to sign on to a discharge petition to get these bills to the floor. They're not going through committee. They're not coming out of committee. And so put the pressure on the Republican members to make sure they know how upset you are. Democrats know we're just as upset and we're acting, but we need them to grow a spine and act. And the only way they will grow a spine is if they understand there's electoral pressure, that if they don't, there are going to be consequences.
Can I ask you a quick question about that?
Mhm.
So do you have an inkling of a few that are sort of somewhere that you feel do have a heart? Or in Virginia, I mean, we do have, you know, obviously some of these Congress people took place in the January 6th insurrection,
Okay.
right? So we have, that's a hard issue, because I'm wondering, when you see the whole everybody installed is an election denier. I mean, it's just really kind of crazy. Is there any hope that you see if any of those Congress, and on the Senate side, I was really surprised by Lisa Murkowski's vote. And I'm thinking, is it that bad? They're that scared. And what the hell are they trying to save? Because if this goes the way it is, there's nothing to like recover from anyway. So that no one's willing just to go out on the chopping block at this point.
I can't speak for them.
Right.
Can't control what they think.
Right.
What I'm saying is, some of you have the control. You are their constituents, or you know people who can flood their office and demand action.
Okay.
And they may not vote, but
Right.
the only reason the funding freeze, you know, they start to backtrack when they see public opinion swaying against them. And we're not going to win every battle,
Right.
but we got to try. And so, you know, rather than trying to speculate who can we get,
Just go at it.
members listen to people who live in their district. So if
True.
you live in a Republican district, or you know people who do, have them call their member, period. Don't worry about anything else.
No. So let's talk about the Department of Education. I saw today the flurry at the doors trying to get inside there, and people being denied. We saw the police standing and, you know, making a show of force. So what is going on the ground that you're seeing that people should know about, or maybe that they're trying to call attention to? Is that another strategy to sort of shine a light on what's happening?
The biggest thing that we can do is, yes, shine a light on what's happening, and federal employees are afraid to speak out.
Mhm.
And anyone who receives federal funding is afraid to speak out. So what we're trying to do is, whether it's at USAID, the Department of Education, yesterday I was at the, you know, HHS, is we have to show up to say, like, what are you doing? And when we get rebuffed, that's news. So we're trying, basically through legislation, through letters to the Trump administration. I've written several letters already, or joined on several letters on the record, calling them out or trying to get answers to questions. And then when they stonewall us, that creates a record that then can be used in a court case somewhere down the road. We've been talking with our allied partners. This week, Jerry Connolly and Steny Hoyer hosted a roundtable with various organizations that represent the federal workforce to talk about their litigation strategy and what we can do to support federal workers. And so that's what we're doing. But I think more importantly, what I'm hearing is you all need to know what you can do. And so, number one, again, I go back to making sure Republican members are
Hearing.
feeling the pressure. So whether that's protest, whether that's calls into their office, whether that's email, and calls, frankly, are a little bit more effective because the calls into the office bog down the staff. And while they see and get a number of the emails, you don't feel them quite as much as you do phone calls. So calls into Republican offices to tell them your concerns. And as you see on the ground in your community, how these different things impact the community, letting us know. So for example, yesterday, I met with a group from community health centers who said, we still can't access our funding, even though the funding freeze was blocked by a federal court. And now we're going to have to close, you know, 3 of our centers. So where you are in an organization or know people who are impacted by what the what the federal government's doing, whether it's farmers who are worried about the tariffs, whether it's you're starting to see egg prices go up again because avian flu means whole flocks of chickens are being slaughtered and the CDC is not doing anything about it. Sharing that information, but also I got to tell you, there's so much misinformation that is being spread.
Yeah.
When you see something on social media, before you share it, verify it.
Verify.
Because there have been instances where and be strategic about what you share. So perfect example, I was flooded with people reaching in saying, have you noticed that all the federal government websites have a flag that has 9 stars in the top? Isn't that the Confederate flag? Well, number one, no, it's not the Confederate flag. Number two, there are reasons behind that. And number three, should our priority right now be on the fact that there's what the flag looks like on websites, or should our focus be on the trauma that's being inflicted on the federal workforce? So please pick your battles in a way that are going to really have an impact, but check the facts before you share something.
Yeah, it is. And watching over here, I just happened to be watching Fox News the other day, and I was like, the amount of misinformation that comes and the stories going through there, it's incredible to witness. Before you leave, I want to point something out because I am concerned about it when I think about our election in Virginia, and I think about our strategy as Democrats. As we know, we have an opportunity, hopefully, to win back the House. The SAVE Act that's coming up this week. It feels like a lot of people don't know about it, even some of my activist friends. And this seems to me to be the strategy to make sure we kind of never vote again. So what are you guys thinking of when you see the SAVE Act passing possibly, or that will just really change even how maybe we vote in Virginia on this election? So I'm a little worried trying to get ahead of the game. What is your plan on the SAVE Act?
Well, the SAVE Act is not new. They tried to attach it to a funding bill last year, and really it's spreading the word. And again, we need 3 Republicans to vote no.
So that could pass if they don't vote no. Okay.
It could pass. But for people that don't know, what the SAVE Act does is it would require in every election, and there's a big question whether, Congress can only do so much with state elections unless it's to enforce the Civil Rights Act. But what they want to do is require a basically a government issued ID to be able to vote. Now, the version of the SAVE Act that I saw, I haven't read the newest one, but I assume it hasn't changed. Most of the forms of ID that would count cost money. Well, that's a poll tax, and poll tax is illegal under the one of the amendments. I can't remember which one. And so again, that is another example. If this bill passes, there will be a litigation strategy. But also, let me point out one more very important thing, because we're not going to sue on everything, because they want lawsuits to go to the Supreme Court, where they have justices that are very likely to rule in their favor and completely rewrite or gut law or weaponize laws that we have relied on. So they want a Supreme Court case, 14th Amendment, right, citizenship. And so we have to be very careful what we file and what we don't. Now, a poll tax is a poll tax. That's pretty clear. So I'm pretty sure there'll be lawsuits around that. But right now, it is putting that pressure on Republicans to vote against all of this stuff.
Right.
Raise awareness about what all of this stuff does. And it is really an all hands on deck moment, and we're doing our part as members of Congress, but we can't do it alone. It's, we're partnering with state governments, we're partnering with activists, we're partnering with allied organizations on each of these different issues. And I'm going to be honest, like, things are happening so rapidly that sometimes I don't even have time to post on social media. But if you want real-time updates about what's happening, make sure you are following members of Congress on the official side.
Yes.
Everything I have time, or my staff has time to post, and I have like 3 comms people, is on our official side at Rep McClellan. Except Blue Sky is different, but Courtney will put it all in there, or you can go to my website at mcclellan.house.gov. But make sure you are following and amplifying what we are doing on our official pages.
Okay.
Because under the rules, we got to keep official and unofficial separate. And we don't have, it's really hard to keep both of them up to date.
Yes. Well, I want to say that when I wrote, we're going to wrap up, and I'm so grateful you can be here today. I love what you're doing today. I think today is the deadline, but you're sending Valentines to veterans. It's just a beautiful thing that you have taken on, and I love that. And also about voting and today's Black History. Vanell, you missed we opened it up with a really great moment about Black history, but the poll tax reminded me of your family story, and that's why the SAVE Act, needing a birth certificate and a passport and not allowing any voter registration through portals or online. This will change how we do things in Virginia. So my mind is sort of looking ahead of that a little bit. But real quick, why don't you just do the quick story about your family since today's Black History, and also poll tax?
Sure. So I'll do poll tax, and so my great grandfather had to pass a literacy test and find 3 white men to vouch for him to be able to register to vote in the 1890s, but he did it. On January, many of you know, my father passed away in January of 2014, and I inherited his Bible. So every January I will look through it. And on January 5th, 2020, which was the night that Georgia elected the first Black man to the Senate, I was thinking of my dad, and I looked through the Bible, and I found an envelope that I had never noticed before inside of it. And when I opened it, it was his poll tax receipt from the first time he registered to vote. And I went to bed very hopeful for this country to say, well, look how far we've come. Tomorrow, the first Black man is going to be sworn in from Georgia. The first Black woman vice president is going to be certified. And then what happened? The next day, we had people try to take by force what they couldn't win in the ballot box. And I'm going to end with this. Every time in American history we make progress towards making the ideals upon which this country was founded true, and every time in this country that marginalized communities, especially Black people, gain social, political, and economic power, there is a backlash. That backlash involves 3 things: voter suppression, violence, and propaganda. We are in the backlash now. We are in the backlash of all backlashes. But don't get dispirited, because we are fighting that backlash from a position of more power than our ancestors ever dreamed. And so when you get tired, because you will, when you get angry, when you are on the verge of, I don't know what to do, remember that power. And remember what John Lewis said: democracy is a state that requires every generation to do its part to build the beloved community. And we cannot give up. And when we succeed, we can't become complacent, because the backlash always comes. But together we are in this fight against the backlash. And I'm so proud to be in this fight with each and every one of you watching this right now.
Thank you. Thank you for being here, everybody. Just great for our hearts today. Take care, and we're with you, and we'll stay in touch. And, again, rapid responses. Let us know when you need us. We got your back.
Thank you. Y'all take care.
Woo.
Right. Let's bring up
Goosebumps.
Carrie. That was, where'd you go, Carrie? There you go.
Yeah.
Woo, that was, I know. Really.
Just like
Great. If we talked about that color red today, it was on fire, and I love it. And I'm going to hand it right back to my friend, because we have a important next guest coming up.
I have a very fiery person. I am so excited to introduce my friend Patricia Bracknell. She and I met when we were fighting the casino in Norfolk. That's probably when I first met her, through Jackie Glass. She is a fiery, feisty defender of rights. I'm so happy to call her my friend, and I'm glad we could finally get her on the show. She is the founder and president of the Chamber for Hispanic Progress. She is a fierce advocate, and I'm just going to stop talking. Patricia, tell us what you're up to right now.
Well, I mean, it's hard to follow the Congresswoman Act, right? That's what else can I say? I mean, so empowered by her words. And first of all, thank you for having me. Oh my God, in Black History Month. So to all of my African American brothers and sisters, we're in this together, and thank you for allowing me to take a window of your time. And this is I guess very well setting for unity, right? So we're here together. So what can I tell you, Carrie? We're engaged in our mission. We are currently rapidly fidgeting and trying to provide everything that we can to our communities. Our website is Chamber for Hispanic Progress. Find us. We have also many resources there. We also have a toolkit that we provided to our communities. We're besides advocacy, we're here for every need in the community. We don't provide all the services, but we are very connected with organizations like yours and many others that provide those services for our communities. What can I tell you? My heart is constantly broken. I hear the stories, I get the calls, I cry myself to sleep sometimes a lot lately.
It's a very
So
scary moment. Very
it
scary
is.
moment for a lot of people. You shared with me one of the stories about a woman who just lost her protected status. Can you just share that story?
Yeah, so we had a case where a female was rescued from, she's South American. She was rescued from a violent environment in home violence. And she has two little kids. And this person was kept um, sometimes tied up in the home, but always locked in the home. She couldn't leave. And when she was rescued, she was an undocumented immigrant and was put under a protected order. But now that protected order has expired because of the new changes on policies with the current president. And the asylum, her ex-husband or husband, was deported to Honduras. And from Honduras, he's waiting for her. He sent her a new text saying, or messages, I'm waiting for you. I'm waiting, and you, as soon as you come here, you're dead. And
Frightening.
so she had a court date last week, and we were able to kind of help her a little bit to get an extension. So hopefully, maybe I'm gonna be calling Roma here soon and see if we
Yeah,
can.
there you go.
And
Making
I
connections.
they
You know,
would.
I really want to jump ahead because we don't have a lot of time, but there was something yesterday when you and I were talking that we landed on that I think ties into what Congresswoman McClellan was saying. And that is that in the history of my people, the history of my people does not include genocide. The history of your people includes genocide. And I think that's my privilege. And sorry, when your folks are facing what's happening right now, they think of genocide because genocide is in your history. It's not mine.
Yeah, so this happened to my mother's family. They lived in New Mexico in the 1940s, late 30s, 1940s, where my grandparents decided that moving to northern Mexico was safer to keep their kids together and not come home and have my aunts, because they're almost all girls and one boy, disappeared and end up in a country they never lived before. So this is very personal to me, very, very, very personal, because that changed the whole environment of my mother's family. And so in it's not that these people want to come here illegally. It's just that every human in this earth has the right to immigrate to whatever country they want to immigrate to. It is those countries' responsibilities to have those immigration laws that are active and they are responsible and that they can apply. But the United States doesn't want to make them accessible. Right. They want to create criminals. They want to create what they call criminals constantly. So, what are you going to do?
Well, I just think that right now you can't help but see we have just sent folks into detention center in Guantanamo. So we are taking people who are not from Cuba and sending them to Cuba. So it is starting to happen. We are forcibly removing people into countries that they're not even from. And so when you brought that up the other day, it just resonated with me because there are certain things that trigger certain responses in different populations. And for for you to have that in your history and that it immediately comes to mind because you've been working with Indigenous people and people of Hispanic descent, and even using the term Hispanic just implies the word genocide. So it's just something that brought up that you can't help as you're seeing what's happening unfold. Real quick, because this just came up yesterday when you and I were talking. We're talking about sharing stories. You have a federal grant. You received a memo that was quite troubling. I just want you to take 20 seconds and explain to us what that memo
Yeah.
was all about.
So we're part of a research project with MIT, UVA, and the Department of Energy. And our grant has been issued and is money from 2024, fiscal year 24. So we're safe in receiving the funding, but for the generation of the product that we're creating, we were provided with the list of words that cannot be used because of this grant. And it's 2.5 pages of words, like the first one was women, females, underserved communities, Black, Hispanic, Latinx, Latino. Some of the words that were not included were white, men, and soldiers, or anything with the military. But every other word that serve underserved communities, communities of need, special needs, all of those words are going to, included in a grant, are going to be flagged.
Flagged for potential, flagged for not getting funded, flagged in your reports of what you spent the money on. All of
After
that.
I read that, Carrie, I literally went and sat on my couch and I cried, because they're even trying to erase me off a document.
Right. And the fact that you said, guess what word was not on the list, Carrie? And I was like, I don't know what you said. Men. Women were on the list. You can't use that word anymore in a grant application, but you can use the word men. I'm glad you shared that, because when you told me that yesterday, I could not even believe it. You said it was 4 pages of words that you can no longer use.
Yeah.
Four pages of words.
And so in the Mexican community, we changed the significance of MAGA.
Yeah.
We took the MAGA word back, and it means Mexicans ain't going anywhere.
Nice. I like that.
So a lot of
That's
those products that you see out there is going to be that.
I love it. Mexicans aren't going anywhere, or the moms aren't going anywhere either. We got your back.
I have a quick question. Those 4 pages, could we get those? I'm interested in looking at that. The erasure of.
Yeah, I'll forward it to Carrie here shortly, and she can post them in whatever you guys want to have access to. Sure.
This is crazy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, my friend.
For your brand writers.
Yeah, right.
Well,
Be warned. We have banned words in the United States. Who thought it would ever happen?
Well, the erasure of people, like you said, is not a new thing. I thank you for bringing these stories. They're so important, because I know, like I shared the story at the beginning of the show about my neighbors whose kids went to high school right in Annandale. And right in Annandale, I live, where these particular people, these men got rounded up. So we're starting to see these things. And the more, like Fennell, come on in, Fennell, that we think the more that we really tell people and shine the light on it. I want to share a quick story. Of course, David Pepper, by the way, is coming next week. If you don't know David Pepper, author of Laboratories of Autocracy, but David was talking about really highlighting people who are like Senator Andy Kim, who showed up and just walked right in USAID building, demanded to talk to somebody and was denied. But that started the whole avalanche of people starting to see what was happening. Then the media came. One person walked over. We can do a lot as one person. And I am doing for my neighbors. We are sharing that letter to people. It's not a Republican or Democratic thing. Those are the kind of things that are going to change minds. So those stories are important. So Patricia, thank you for sharing yours. I hope you could stay in the after chat. Will you be able to stay a little bit with us? Great. Well, thank you for being here. We're going to go wrap up. Carrie, this is obviously, you made me get teary-eyed. I know this is
sorry. Sorry, you guys.
Sorry,
sorry about that.
When you're taking all this in, have a heavy week.
Have we not cried?
Too much. It's It
Have
is
we
a
not
lot.
cried? Have we not all been tears? Monday, USAID, Tuesday, Treasury, Thursday, EPA, Friday, Ed Department.
Yeah. Fucking,
Four departments attacked this week.
yeah. So like I think Jennifer McClellan said it about when I heard her speak, putting on your safety mask, taking care of yourself, and then really staying in there as much as you can for, for that fight. And Fennell, what did you want to have some wrap up words and we'll go to the after chat?
Yeah. So I'm going to take like 30 seconds
Go ahead.
just to sort of just say, yeah, it was pretty awesome today. I think what Jennifer McClellan said that we all should walk away with is share information and make those phone calls into Republican districts. If
Yes.
you have a representative and he's not Democrat, we know. But I think that is really, really important. And she said phone calls because that's what gets them moving. But I also wanted to just take a minute, Catherine, and just tie up the month of January moving into February so that sort of the things that we talk about is all connected in what we do. January 3rd, we had Jess Piper, who is amazing, who has been living under Republican rule for, I guess, the last 30 years. I don't know, a long time. But, if anybody hasn't had a chance to read her last article, One Thing, which just applies to exactly what Congresswoman McClellan was saying today. You pick that thing, you pick that lane, and you do that thing. We had the grassroots from Louisa on January 10th to talk about all the amendments. On the 17th, we had Reverend Cozy Bailey and Public Citizen, which is really important when she talks about those lawsuits. And you all have that information to follow because what she said, you might not see it and think nothing's happening, but stuff is happening. We had Tom Bonnier who talked about all of the data. What should we be looking at? Where are these people? And we're going to have more data that will come out in March. And then on the 31st, we had Steve Phillips, who talked about the new majority index. When you're thinking about your work, Carrie, when you're thinking about those neighborhoods and those people and those messages, it will be really important for us to make sure that we're delivering that information to the right people. And then, of course, today we had Patricia and we've had Roma. So I think I just say that to say the information is here. Go to past Zooms, take a look. What we need to do is right here in front of us.
I love it. It is right here in front of us. And then we're always, we have a great action team here, Viva la Resistance, with Dennis Orsinger is leading a team, and people keep adding daily to that group who are really making sure we're curating all these federal actions. We're highlighting what needs to be done. This is the kind of stuff that not only do you have the Friday Power Lunch, the news coming to you, the guests, the information, we never do anything that doesn't have an action because we're action oriented. We're activists. That's how we got started. So truly not a wasted minute. Next week, like I said, David Pepper, because we will have, it's going to be February 14th, Day of Love. We're democracy lovers on the show. We'll announce more guests coming up. And after that, the next week, we'll have Abigail Spanberger will be here, and we'll have the regional organizer from Indivisible. We'll also be here on the 21st. And I'm blanking on the next guest, but truly, we are lining it up. We're glad you're here. I want to say a special thank you. Our Patreon series is really awesome. When we started, we have a couple levels people can support us at. And even today, I want to say a big thank you to Janet Scafido. Janet, if you're there, I think you're still in the room. Thank you for really supporting us and becoming a patron. You'll get special emails. You get the Zoom background. And also Stephanie that also joined Noller. Thank you, Stephanie. It really means a lot. Thank you so much for your support. And we're going to roll over. We'll get our, Dennis, if you want to get our rollout credits ready, we're going to go into the after chat where you get to unmute, get to ask the guests your questions, get to hang out and share what you're seeing going on. And make sure you follow us on YouTube and also on Substack, and we'll see you on the other side. Thank you to the team up there. We couldn't do the show without you. Appreciate it. Let's roll.